Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's, the roll call show that all members are present except for Eric Minks is not with us today. There are no citizen comments that I've seen. We'll start with board member committee reports, starting with Jim.
Just had a policy meeting. Howard and Ben, we made just a few additions, but otherwise the policies as read look very good.
Howard?
Just had the policy meeting. I think we set a record for getting stuff done.
All right. Chad?
Sorry about that. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Sue?
Nothing to report.
All right, I had, agenda planning last Wednesday with Ben and Deb. That went pretty well, I thought, and then I snuck in for about the last 5 minutes of policy today. Had to work a little late. Deb?
Just agenda planning.
All right, thank you. There's no student council report. We'll move on to the superintendent report.
Okay, so I'll just give you a sequence of events on where we're at. Last Friday, we were able to get a communication out to all staff, and we've been trying to put that into a Tiger Times format. So you should have seen that. We try and copy board members on that, and we get that out on many other places. It was an update with as much additional information as that we could share with them. And I did send you all today the communication that we sent out to all of our staff, our 500 plus team members, with kind of a new format for getting information. Again, we've only been doing this for a couple of years, but it was just last year that our district took on the huge feat of going paperless, which again, we're very thankful that we've done that because we were using the mail for everything. So typically this week, our staff would be getting a very thick envelope in the mail with lots of different pieces of paper and letter and information. Last year, we were able to put it all into an email that went out with several attachments. And this year, we worked hard to put it in what's called our staff portal. And that is a portion from our website that is private to only staff. And you should have seen my email to them. And we talk a lot about being a team. We talk a lot about our game plan. So we thought it was only appropriate to call our plan for the opening of the fall our playbook. I had a letter with a couple, and I hope you took an opportunity to read that. Please do if you haven't. With a couple other important, we had our game plan video and some of our training modules. And I'm going to open this just so you see an idea of some of the things that we're preparing for our staff. There is quite a bit additional information that our staff needs to have prior to the year starting. So we have created a series of basically synchronous training sessions that we would pay our staff the staff development rate of pay for them to have some of these trainings done prior to that week back. And then you'll be able to see the agenda for the entire week that was listed in there. All of our school buildings information. So if you're a high school staff member, for example, you'd click on the high school, you would see the high school principal letter with the itinerary for the week. And you would have all of the supporting documentation, and every one of our sites have that. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for our staff. Again, we're pretty proud that we were able to move to this. And then we had all the frequently asked questions just related to staff as it relates to opening safely for the school year. I think you will recognize that there is a tremendous amount of information to digest. And it will take a long period of time to get through this and take a look. You can type any word into the search engine, For example, I put face shields in here. I press there, and I would be able to get all the information related to face shields, when I could use a face shield according to the executive order and not. So if you have questions, this is what our staff, our team members received today to prepare them for the next coming weeks ahead. So this was a good piece of information. We had the phase 1 registration deadline was, I think, 2 Sundays ago. Our families did not register, so it did set us back about 4 to 5 days, to where we were hoping that our administration could be creating staff or student schedules and doing staffing assignments and building a master schedule all of this week. All of last week. Unfortunately, we spent the majority of our week making individual phone calls and things to get information. We did end up in the Tiger Times set a deadline that said if we don't hear from you on Sunday night, the default would be our base model, and that has happened, and our principals have been working on to assign students and staff. Our goal is to get what we were calling phase 2 registration out to families by this Friday, which would be a push out of more information from us to families. It would be the principal letter with all the detailed information. It might have the things like, hey, this is how we're doing recess. This is how we're doing lunch. This is, how we're doing, this is how you'll drop your child off for the day, the drop off and pick up. It depends on the age of the student, but that's when we'll get very detailed information. There'll be information about new student orientation, kind of all the back to school kinds of pieces. Our sites will have a slight variation of schedules those first 2 weeks when we're calling that a transition period. And, again, we're going to focus a majority of our time on relationships, getting all of our students acclimated with our processes that we'll be using in our building. So we'll be doing lots of front end loading with that. And our middle school and high school will be doing different versions of what they used to, like the middle school call it web day, for example, and the high school had a 9th grade transition day. So finding new and different ways to do that in our new way of doing business. So families will be getting that information at the end of this week, our hope is, okay? I do not believe that at least our middle school and high school likely won't have, okay, this is your schedule, this is what you have on Monday, first hour, second hour, third hour, those kinds of things. My hope is that we'll be able to at least say you're going to be in group A or you're going to be in group B, which would indicate what days they're coming. Our elementary schools, I don't have confirmation on this, but I do think that they may be in a better position to say, hey, this is who your teacher is going to be, right? So some of that information will be coming out. And then, of course, we've done so much over communicating with our families prior to even now. So lots of information has already gotten to families. Again, if you look at a typical year, a family won't get any information, much information from school until right about this week. They'd be getting the information. But we've been getting information now for the last month or so. I think it's important to note, especially at our elementary ages, that although there are no requirements for social distancing and occupancy at the elementary level, we are doing our best to try and limit occupancy and social distance the best that we can. The way that we're trying to do that is we are repurposing and utilizing our ADSYS teachers differently, and our title teachers differently to put them into the classroom, and also taking instructional coaches that we've utilized in the past for teacher development, and we're placing them in the classroom as well. So at the primary and the intermediate, we will have about 5 additional teachers that we will be putting into the classroom that will bring those class size parameters down quite a bit. Now, I don't have the exact numbers for you. I will also tell you that our primary level, we have a good issue, but it has caused some problem solving for us. And that is, we have had 66 new students enroll at our primary over the course of the last 2 weeks. Now, that, we need to hire another teacher.
Are
So
those kindergartners or?
the majority are kindergarten. Majority are kindergarten. And if you, we did our big push for Wild About Kindergarten last year. We were not able to see that through fruition into the spring because we had dozens of other activities. And there was a period of time that we were fearful we wouldn't even get to our 200 that we projected for our budget. When about 2 weeks ago, we were right at about that 200. We were feeling pretty good. That jumped, I don't know if we're just shy of 240 or in that 235, 240-ish for kindergarten.
Wow.
So, long story short, we're trying to reutilize and rethink how we're using some of our staff. There are budgetary implications for that. We'll need to rewrite our ADSIS funding proposal to the state. With the title component, we will be using a one-time opportunity that we get every 3 years to defer title funding to the next year, which we will be doing. And we will be using CARES Act or GEARS money or the state dollars to backfill the cost of that position. So we won't be losing that money. We'll just be pushing it off to the next year. The reason why we're doing that is Title I comes with lots of restrictions on how you can use that teacher, right? At this point in time, we can't have restrictions. We need to use that teacher to hopefully bring down those class sizes. So lots of work that's happening there. Jason has been working with staff in a process called the ADA interactive meetings. So staff had an opportunity per the executive order to put in a request to potentially work remotely or work on site but not with students. He has, I believe, completed that and is working then individually with the principals on what staff members qualified for that remote experience. I believe he said originally he had about 20 requests. Once he set the meetings up, I believe about 12 teachers will actually qualify for that. So that's kind of being worked out. I do want you to know though, and this was a decision that I think I'm going to get some maybe some pushback because I got an email on this today, but I'm pretty firm in my belief in this, is that a teacher that is here every day will have other duties that occur just from being here. Assign, hall duty, monitoring of students, things that occur. Our staff that are working remotely won't necessarily have that. They may have other things that are related to that, but we are going to have our distance learning teachers have slightly or larger class sizes than our teachers that are here physically. Okay, to the extent of a classroom teacher at the elementary might have 20 students or 21 students or 22 or something like that. Our distance learning might have as many as 31 or 32, right? And it's a different variables, but one of the things that we really felt like we needed to do was bring those physical class sizes down to honor social distancing the best that we possibly can. So, we'll continue to work through that with our staffing. We are just in the infancy stages of getting that information out. Lots of, phone calls, emails, things coming in with questions. More than ever, some of the questions or concerns are things that we can't solve, and they're just the way that they need to be. I'm going to give you an example of this that, I hope we'll be able to diffuse, but there's an example of transportation, right? When we are having our bus companies completely reroute how we're going to transport students in the district, we needed to hear from families who who requires transportation and who's going to get a ride. And then based upon that, we then need to route. And we've made the decision based upon recommendations, strong recommendations from Palmer and other advisors, that we ask families to pick one spot. Okay, so if you're going to be on the bus, you're going to have one drop off, one bus per student, basically. Which means that if we have a family that lives in 2 households or 3 households, we won't be able to have one student take 3 different spots up, because we are limited in the number of spots that we have for transportation, which of course will cause some inconvenience for families to figure out how they're going to arrange for pickup and drop off and those kinds of things. The other piece that we felt strong about is we needed to limit what we're calling cross-contamination. For example, if we have an outbreak, which everybody continues to tell us that it's an inevitable thing, that at some point we'll get one, and we'll need to go through the contact tracing process. There are some protocols that if students would be within 6 feet of a person for more than 15 minutes, there's a series of pieces that would need to happen, which could include exclusion of those children from being, in our schools or on the bus. So I think there was some thought about, if a student is on multiple buses, then that could potentially impact more buses. Now, that was our original thought in that. We'll continue to evolve in our thought process. It's difficult because at our heart, we want to be the best customer service provider as we possibly can. But I want you to be aware that that is a potential issue that we will be working through. I don't know, I could talk forever, but if you have any specific questions, I would be happy to answer them.
As far as those ad assistant title teachers that are going to be working in the classroom,
Mhm.
so the kids that need the intervention, are they still that sort of help that they might need, even if those ad assistant title teachers are down in the classroom?
Well, it's not going to look any way like it did before.
Right, but there's still
Yeah,
some sort of a plan
We-
to
we
figure
will-
out how to.
we will try and provide interventions and differentiate instruction in the classroom, and we hope that by having smaller class sizes, it would allow a teacher to maybe take a subgroup or groups from within the one setting into special groups. But I would tell you that I have not been part of the detailed discussions. I can talk to teaching and learning to see how that would occur. I would, one of the pieces, this probably is going to look like at the elementary is like a one-room schoolhouse, basically, like a lot of one-room schoolhouses within one big building, where we're going to try and keep students in that spot, and we'll be pushing specials teachers into that space as much as possible. Students would be eating in that space as well. But we'll try and get them outside too for mass breaks and for PE, and get them out moving and those kinds of things. But we're just trying to follow recommendations there. I would tell you that there's a distinct difference between a student that's receiving ADSIS or title interventions and a student that's on an IEP.
Right.
And all of our special ed teachers will still be providing special education programming for our students.
I'm certain that the smaller class sizes will probably help out with a little bit of the intervention work.
I hope so. And it just didn't make, for one, we needed smaller class sizes, and two, it didn't make any sense to have, 1 or 2 students from each class trouncing through the building to go to their title teacher, and then to have that title teacher or ADSIS teacher have multiple different students from different classrooms bopping in and out of that room. I can tell you that everything that I'm saying now is subject to change based upon how it works. So just like always, we got smart people in our buildings, and we're going to trust that our staff and our team at each of the sites will work tirelessly to get all the details figured out on how it's going to run.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Deb. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote via roll call, starting with Jim,
Yes.
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Sue, Eric Stramberg, yes. Deb?
Yes.
Right, motion carries. Discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Howard. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
And by Sue. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Howard,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. Deb,
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll
Motion
second.
made by Sue. Do we have a second?
Chad,
Second.
just a.
Thanks, Chad. Seconded by Chad. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Chad.
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
All right, consent agenda carries. Let's move on to the information portion of the agenda tonight. Shoot. There we go. All right, potential refunding analysis. All right.
Yep,
Yep. Okay.
yep, this is related to our current bonds. Every year Ellers reviews whether refunding our bonds would be beneficial to the district. And this time around, the certificate of participation that we took out for the 2010 renovations at, well, it's now the intermediate, but north at the time, and the high school HVAC project. At that time, we have a potential to refund that. They are indicating a potential savings of $65,000. That would have a direct impact on our capital funds. So the process to do this would start in September. So I just wanted you aware that this will be on the docket.
That'd be nice. All right, thank you. Moving on to the COVID-19 fall updates. Is there anything that we need to add?
I think I gave you a pretty good summary in my report.
I agree. Okay,
I think, I just want to say that I have had parents that have been positive. I really haven't had
Mhm.
much negative. And when something would come out, people would say, oh, that was really helpful, or that's really thorough. And now maybe the crabbing people are crabbing somewhere else, but I am not hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm saying good work, you guys, because it appears like, I know people are still anxious, but.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for that. I mean, it's like, it's something that we just have to remind ourselves more often. You know, and when we went into this, you know, we knew that we were gonna, you know, this is the impossible situation to make everybody happy. And you kind of know that, but it's surprising how easily you forget that, you know? So it's something we just need to keep reminding ourselves.
there's not a right answer to the situation,
Yeah.
so.
No.
But
you're doing the best you
Yeah.
can.
I do think this, you know, I just hope that our community and our stakeholders will, you know, look at our body of work. You know, I think if you take a look at our body of work over the last, you know, several years, is that every time we have a challenge, we rise to the occasion, we come out with quality product. Whether it be distance learning last year, graduation last year, or, you know, any number of things. I think, look at our work, and we just continue to have, we want people, hopefully will have faith and trust in us that we're going to do our very best to come up with a great product. So, thank you.
What is what happens if there is someone that tests positive, or a staff or a student? I don't know that I've seen that, or did I just miss that?
Yeah, well, we do have that in our frequently asked questions piece, which again, I admit that there's a lot to
Yeah, I
that.
just might have missed that.
Some of that we have linked to the Department of Health has about a 3 or 4 page document that shares what that would look like. But basically, and I sit on 2 or 3 calls a week with the different county health people. But the way it's going to look is that if there is a confirmed case, now the way it's supposed to work is we would get contacted from public health that there's a confirmed case. But many times we hear first, so then we would contact, public health. And then we would work with them through a process called contact tracing. You've heard that many times, I'm sure. But there are these regional teams that are supposedly going to be put together to assist districts through state officials and public officials to assist districts. But in my call last week, they're thinking that they're going to be here to help districts figure it out, and then a lot of the work associated with the contact tracing will be put on us in terms of, I think there's some determination to try and figure out how many other people have been in contact with that person, and their definition of a risk is within a 6 feet radius for over a 15-minute consecutive period of time. So then you'd have to identify that, and then depending on those circumstances, there's any number of things that can happen. Basically, the state will tell you is that there is no one answer. We take a look at the situation. These are the possible things that could transpire based upon the information we receive. That is a difficult thing for people to hear because they want to know exactly what will happen, and there just is no one way that it will happen. So it could be whole classes that are shut down for a period. It could be a school. It could be just 1 or 2 people. We will just work with locked arms with our public health. Yeah.
All right, any more questions?
Is there like a lot of people that are opting homeschool or like open enrollment from our district? I mean, we're getting 66 new. Are there?
Well, you sent out that email last week on how many.
Yeah.
chose distance
Online.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like out of the district.
How many have left our district? I don't know that I've seen any data on that at this point.
I think a lot of it is still other schools have to send those requests, and their office is busy doing COVID work, and I don't think they're sending us the requests yet.
So
Yeah,
there's been a lot of homeschool requesting.
there has been some homeschool requests. I don't think it's been a lot as far as open enrollment. Every district around us has had open enrollment either coming in or going out. And the conversation is, where are we all gonna land when we open our doors?
I do know, like, for my daughter's friends, they're in 7th grade, and there's a bunch of kids that live right on the border of Zimmerman and Princeton that have gone to Zimmerman, but there's 3 of them that are coming to Princeton because of the hybrid learning. They're like, oh, we only have to go 2 days, and we can do the distance learning the other 3. So it's actually might be a good thing. Might bring some kids into the district.
Yeah, we've received a couple of nice emails from families that love our district and have just told us that they philosophically feel like they just need to pull their kids, and we've had some of that. I haven't had any more come across my desk than I have any other year in terms of homeschool requests. But again, some of that, it might be yet to come. Yeah, our biggest, here's our biggest unknown is really probably going to be our high school. You probably hear me say this. There's so many moving parts to the high school piece, and I don't know. I mean, we could be up a lot at the primary. I think we're going to be pretty stable to what we budgeted at the intermediate. I'm not real confident in what our numbers are at the high school. We could be down a little bit. I'm not sure.
We could be up.
or we could be up. In the Princeton Online, I haven't even, here's something that's really bad. You talk about a point, we've completely reconfigured our Princeton Online program, and I haven't even been able to really share that with you yet. I think you're going to be really impressed with some of our rebranding and remarketing and everything that we have out there with that. But that's, Ann Cameron is working closely with the high school administration. I don't know if you met Ann maybe just a couple times, but she's really, really talented. I think our numbers are going to be up on the online program. And we're starting to get some more, she said, last time I talked to her, quite a few more inquiries from outside of the school district as we're starting to market ourselves a little bit outside of our district into other communities.
Hey, Ben, what's the sub situation? Do you know?
Well,
So like, what are you asking, Jim?
Well,
Jason, here,
numbers or training, does it look like there'll be enough substitute teachers around in case people are gone for a day or two?
Yeah, so we have some of our own staff that we've encouraged to go and get their tier 1 short call license, sub-license. So we have some paraprofessionals that we can slide into a classroom, allow them to teach, and then potentially backfill with a paraprofessional. I've also reached out to Teachers on Call, and they are preparing a list of teachers that are going to be, substitute teachers that are going to be available to Princeton. We're also having some conversations regarding locking in like 6 substitute teachers that we would have kind of as permanently coming here, and we would pay them through TOC, but they would be available to us at all times. So
Okay,
from the
thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Deb had a question.
I was just wondering if families understand the differences between the distance learning model and Princeton Online Academy.
I think the short answer to that is no. Even though we've had multiple communications to try and explain the difference. But I think that throughout this whole thing, there's, people have interchanged some of the language, calling distance learning that we did last year emergency online learning, which it really wasn't. But as we get those questions, we try and individually help in the understanding of that. And I know our high school has probably fielded the most questions related to that. And of course, Princeton Online, we've been around for a little bit, so there are families that help other families understand the difference. So, yeah, and at some point on a board work session, here's another thing, that's completely different in our district is we're adopting a new learning management system called Schoology. And that's something that I think the board really needs to see the power in that at a future meeting, so we can kind of share that, so we can get a demo in for you. Yeah.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, I had a question on the online stuff. Have we changed the curriculum's changed, right? So no, is it still going to be canned or no, not canned?
We are, this will be a transition period of time. We are trying to transition to have most of the, what I would call core classes, that's meaning like most of your typical math, language arts, science, and those kinds of things be a Princeton curriculum and Princeton instructional strategies and lessons and those kinds of things put into Schoology. Now, there are some low incidence classes that we, maybe unique classes that we wouldn't offer, and we wouldn't be able to, and even if we did, maybe couldn't have it built into Schoology yet. We are working with a company called Edmentum, and that is a much improved version of what we used to have called Odysseyware. And so we went through a whole vetting process, so we will still have Edmentum as a supplemental option in our Princeton online program for courses that we have not customized and custom built into a Princeton High School course. But it will still be taught by, even those Edmentum courses will still have a teacher assigned to them.
All right, thanks. Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Moving on to the COVID-19 budget. Michelle?
So the last time we were here, we talked about potentially using some of our fund balance. Tonight, we're not going to dive into that. If you look at the top of the sheet that I have attached to the line item, we knew about the GEARS funding at 110,000. We knew about ESSER funding at 310, and we knew that there was some kind of state funding coming. The state funding, they announced that here August 11th. It is $831,589 for our district. You will note that I have timeframes next to those numbers. The GEARS and the ESSER is wonderful timeframe through September of 2022, which basically gives you the 21-22 school year. This state funding called CRF funding is from July 20th to December 20th of this year. Now, that's kind of frustrating me, but that's what we know so far.
How does that funding work? Is it something that you get reimbursed for, or do they actually
I do not
distribute the money?
I do not know how the funding is going to work yet. They are just starting to have webinars. There'll be one on Friday. So we're going to start to watch those to see what we need to do to claim that money. But the CRF funding, it looks like we can use it for whatever we need for COVID-19 related expenses. So if it was in the original budget to begin with, so if we had 10 first grade teachers originally, we can't put any of the original 10
But if you
in.
had a couple, you could use it for that?
That is my understanding from reading it, so I'm hoping I'm right.
Can you use it for added bus routes or added bus?
Yes, so let's go through what we know of today. Tiered busing is where we're headed on expenses. I got these broke out by kind of department. So in transportation, we're going to the tiered busing situation because 6 through 12 has to be at 30% capacity. Or 50% capacity. There's absolutely no way that we can do that with K-5 on the bus. So right now, the planning of the first tier is pre-K-5 pretty much. And pre-K-5, we are going to try to keep to 2 to a seat as much as possible. And if we have to go to 3 to a seat, it will be family members. So those kids will be assigned seats. As they get on the bus, we'll also be loading back to front, so the grades will not be separated. So a 5th grade student could be sitting next to a kindergartner. That is to limit the amount of contact that you have between the first kid and the last kid getting on and off. That is a recommendation in the industry. So there's a lot of kind of changes with tiered busing. The second tier, of course, is going to be our 6 through 12. And they're at 50% capacity. Chris Palmer went through and did some calculations, and he estimated that they would be charging us like $1 a mile, and then of course salary for the drivers. So this is an estimate with drivers. If we needed all 28 buses on the second tier, and Trace doesn't think we do, it'll probably be around that 20 to 22 mark. But if we need it all, it would be a yearly cost of $328,000. And you can see that I broke it up July to December, January to June the best, by counting the days. January to June, of course, costs us more money than July to December because of the length of time.
How does
So
that compare to this year?
What do you mean?
Is it a whole lot more, double the expense?
These for general busing, that's regular to and from, not special education or homeless or care and treatment, just regular busing in this district is 1.3 million a year. It's
Wow.
spending proposition, yep.
So this is an.
So this will be on top of that,
On top.
yes. So
Oh,
yes,
on
and
top of that, oh my gosh, okay, thank you.
on top. It will, the CFR funding, it does qualify because it was mentioned right in the document that tiered busing, if you have to go to something like that, would be covered. So the next category is buildings and grounds. We believe at our middle school and high school, because we have half the students there and a day off in the middle, that our regular staff will be fine to handle what needs to happen there. But at our primary and intermediate schools, we're going to be having lunch in the classrooms, breakfast in the classrooms, and we're going to need cleaners. And we're not hiring custodians, just basic cleaners, because what they're going to be doing is going around grabbing garbage and doing all of our main areas as far as spraying them down quickly throughout the day. So 2 cleaners for the year is about $74,000. And then we have, of course, some other standalone things that happen. We get a lot of questions about the HVAC system and whether that is going to be enough to handle what we need to pull out of the air. Keith is keeping on top of that to the extent that we are going to change to a different filter based on recommendations from the CDC and I forget the name of the place that he mentioned in the email. Michelle does not understand what a MERV 8 is, but filters I do know in general are very expensive for our schools.
So
So
that's for all the schools?
that's a plug number for right now,
Okay,
so we don't really know.
it'd be nice to see that June or July through December number go up a little.
And then electrostatic sprayers, we're gonna have a electrostatic sprayer for the night crew to use in each of the buildings. They're about $2,000 a piece, so that will help speed up disinfecting. And there will be things that the classroom teacher unfortunately will have to do that's outside their normal task list in a day too, regarding keeping things sanitized. Then we have the health and safety portion, which is really the nursing area. We have the hardcore items like PPE and thermometers, but then after having a discussion, we do need to free up our nurse. So we're going to put a health para in the family center so that Nicole is freed up to be wherever she needs to be at any given moment in time. We're also going to do a lot of training, additional training in the health aid area. So there's some extra costs with that. And Nicole's contract is probably not going to hold for this year, her normal contract, because of all the extra work with COVID. So
She's pretty much worked all summer. I mean,
yeah, so we've got
not all day, every
planned
day,
in
but
there. Yeah. Teaching and learning, this is a short list. Jessica and I will be meeting either tomorrow or Thursday to kind of shore this up a little bit more. But there are definitely expenses related to teaching and learning. One of the things I know I don't have on here that you mentioned was manipulatives for our kiddos that are in distance learning, that they have some different things that can go home. So there'll be more on that list the next time you see it, probably throughout this whole document, because I swear every 2 hours I got something new to add to it. Technology, I think we're in pretty good shape as far as technology, because we're a one-to-one district, and we worked through the iPads in our K2 situation, so we've got plenty of what we need there. But we did order webcams and tripods for the classes that will be doing simultaneously distance learning and the kids in the classroom. We're going to upgrade our phone system. This is a one-time fee that will allow a phone call to come in, or the teacher to call out, but it on our cell phones, but it shows the district phone number, which Michelle would like that also, because hearing amplification systems, we had quite the discussion about this, but Jessica in the end said that we really need them. We have them throughout most of the district. Our high school was our weakest area, but because we're wearing masks and you have to talk so much louder in these masks so that people can hear you, so the teachers' voices can be heard, we are amplifying all the rooms. Now, this might not be ready for the first day of school, but hopefully by the end of September, we have them all in. And then the hotspot data. We bought the hotspots in the spring, so the hotspot data will be for this school year. There will most likely be extra cost for food service that we might be able to put on here, but right now we have not identified exactly what that is. I do think all of the extra bagging will be able to be put on here, you know, because we're going to be giving packaged meals. Lunch will look radically different than what it has in the past. They're going, you know, hamburger, hot dog, chicken nuggets. It's going to be simple hand food and a 2-week menu rotation, and it's going to be all in baked packages. So that will be more expensive to provide. So I think we'll be able to add that to this list.
Do you foresee needing any more staff in the food service department?
At this point, we really don't know. And the reason for that is we don't know how many kids are going to opt in to eat lunch. Because now everybody's gonna have to pay. So we're going back to normal lunch. So if you are in the pay program, you have to pay for lunch.
Free and reduced will still be free and reduced.
Mhm. Yes. And we believe those numbers are going to go up. So we don't know until we open the door.
Chad, did you have something?
I did, yeah. So I don't mean to make it go back, but I just had a question on the hotspot data. Last time we talked, I know that you had mentioned that they ran out of data, went to just, you know, because it didn't take much to maximize what was allowed or allocated. So do we get to an unlimited plan so that we're not going to get charged additional than what we're looking at here, or what did that look
Yeah,
like?
this is unlimited. Michelle
Yes.
is saying. Last year, our only saving grace is, I guess we had a bunch of data that we hadn't used in prior years that we were able to kind of use, but then we ran out of that right away. So Michelle's saying this is unlimited.
Mhm.
Perfect, thanks.
Is there a distance learning lunch
Yes.
provision, like on the curbs or buses?
Yes,
or
we
what?
will be serving distance learning meals out of our middle school on Wednesday. They will take 3 days of lunches at one time. They will we'll set up a website on the website where they order it. Because again, they have to pay for it. It's not free. So we think that's going to change the amount of people coming through our lines dramatically.
Are
Um,
the kids are home, are they able to have that then, like the hybrids, they can?
Yes, they would get 3 days.
3 days, okay.
Oh, yeah, and your 5 days for your other distance learning kids, yeah. Then you've got the buildings. I'll go back. Middle school and high school, as you see right now, we don't have anything allocated there. The caveat to that is they are just working on the registration numbers right now because we've been waiting for parents to choose things. And there's a lot to do there. We expect that to change over the next couple of days, and there will be items on that list. Going back to the primary and intermediate school, teacher reallocations in both of those buildings are 5 staff. As Ben mentioned before, it's Title I. We have 2 coaching positions, one in literacy, one in math, and then access teachers are the rest of them. So we already have the access teachers in the budget, and we believe we can rewrite that grant to save the revenue. I'm hoping that because we're reallocating our title teacher and our literacy coaches and math coach, where we were spending staff development funds out instead, that's now going to be an add to the general fund, the unassigned area. I'm hoping that qualifies for CRF funds. So at the end of the day, right now we're at a little over $1 million in costs. We got 525,000 that we believe we can get out of the CRF funds. We got 485,000 in the second half of the year. So I expect this to change daily, and I expect the cost to continue to go up.
Right, obviously, we're like 300,000 under the December budget of what we could spend, of the 831,000.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's gonna be added costs, but let's say we get to December and we're at 750,000, are we able to purchase like more cleaning supplies, like floor scrubber or
Yep.
more filters or
Yeah,
something to help us?
we'll be able to do those those things that qualify for.
Is that 831,000, is that a use it or lose it kind of a
At
deal?
this point, that's what I understand. But basically, I read a PowerPoint today, that's why I know that it has to be COVID related, and if you had 10 teachers, you can't charge any of those 10 teachers to the COVID. We are gonna do our best to use all of those funds in the time frame that they are indicating we have to. I'm kind of frustrated with the time frame.
Well, a good business director could make anything look COVID related, right?
It
But I
is
was
going
telling
to
her
be
today.
COVID related.
Can we prepay transportation bills? I mean, can we bill us?
That's what I don't know. So there has been very little said about this yet,
Yeah,
and
you're gonna learn a lot more
we
in
hope
the
to.
coming webinars, but.
I know this, Yeah.
Don't worry, they come in to me daily with, I need this, so. And I've got poor Jackie is going back through every invoice in July from buildings and grounds, so we get those reallocated right. We build a
Michelle?
separate fund and
I'm sorry.
No, I got you, Jim.
I was
Jim, go
wondering
ahead.
how the food service budget is going to be affected by going to a different style of food that's going to be offered.
We really don't know yet, Jim,
Yeah, it could go down, I mean,
or it could stay relatively the same.
yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If we have more free and reduced students than in the past, I would say that it might stay relatively the same. But if we have a lot of people paying for lunch and, we're giving basic sandwiches, parents might say, I'm just gonna send from home. So those are the things we don't know.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Does anyone have any more questions? All right, let's move on to the face mask policy. This policy, I don't know if everyone received the email from MSBA about the face mask policy. It's something that we kind of need to fast track and push it through tonight. I'll let Howard speak on that.
Well, what you got is what we passed tonight policy, except we added something, Roman numeral 2, section A, where it talks about the executive orders. We added a phrase that the policy would be in a duration of the executive orders, so it's not totally open-ended. Otherwise, that's what it is, and it's straight from MSBA, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, does anyone have any questions on this? We'll be voting on this in a few minutes. All right, let's move on to the action. We need a resolution to approve the adopting base learning models for the 2020-2021 school year as presented. So this is just to approve our learning this year, the K through 5 in person and hybrid. Is that what this is for?
Yeah, this is for the board to formally say that we are adopting. This is our base model, but if you skip kind of all the way to the bottom and you get past the where is stuff, section 1 says the superintendent is hereby directed to implement the following base model to open the 2021 school year. That'd be pre-K 5 grade through grade 5 are attending full days in person, and students 6-12 will be in hybrid learning. And then the second part, section 2, says the superintendent is hereby authorized after consultation with the school board chair and notification to the school board to select and implement a different learning model for the school district or any specific school buildings without school board action if the superintendent reasonably believes that prompt implementation of a different learning model is necessary and the constraints of time and public health considerations render it impractical to hold a school board meeting. So that's really referring to if we have an outbreak or the numbers in the county goes way up. We would work with public health and we would have to move quickly. The third section indicates that the superintendent will provide regular updates to the school board regarding the school district's efforts to implement COVID-19 related educational and public guidance issued by MD and MDH respectively. Just an update on numbers. The latest official numbers, okay, and again, there's two kinds of numbers. There's official numbers and what I'm going to call unofficial numbers. The official numbers is the official report from the Department of Health, right? And they generally are a couple weeks behind, right? The latest one for Sherburne County was at like 20.8-ish, okay? The real numbers, the unofficial, but the numbers that I have on a daily running spreadsheet we're at about 12 to 13. Now, that is including, remember I've talked to you about sometimes there are congregate care settings or a potential outbreak in a federal prison or something that could impact that. Those numbers include that. If you took the real numbers right now, we would be right at about 9. Okay, so we're close to that possible tier 1. I would tell you that I do not advise the board to deviate from the plan that we have in place for multiple reasons. One of which is I don't believe that we could, make any decision on one data point. We need to look for a trend over a period of time. And there is also some evidence that there is some lag time in reporting that is happening, where there was a few days where, I don't know what the reason is. I don't want to speak to that, but data is a funny thing, right? You can't just jump at it without getting more information. So I'm comfortable. And the other piece is we've spent all of our time moving on this plan, and I think we're ready to go. Our intent would be that hopefully things do get better, and if we do see a trend, let's say hypothetically in October-ish or mid-October, that we would continue to see that trend, and that would allow us time that we could make a transition at the trimester time. That's a natural time that we could make a change if we were to go back to be full-time at the middle school, high school. So that's our recommendation.
All right. So we need a motion to approve the resolution adopting the base learning models for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Jim. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Chad, we got a second by Chad.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? All right, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Sue.
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yeah,
Howard,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
thank you. Resolution is approved. All right. Moving on to the district calendar, the 2021, 2020-2021 school calendar. There was a couple changes that we had talked about making, and I think you guys have
Yep, so I
made all the changes? Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, so I met with the building principals. I know you guys have made some recommendations as well, specifically around that Christmas break time. Initially, we thought that was gonna work. However, we have our end of the try at the beginning of December, which would have made it really difficult if we had any schedule changes or other things with no days off right there. So in talking with the staff or the administrators, we were able to get and move the try actually up an additional week, so it'll be the last, right before Thanksgiving break, and put the 2 days next to Thanksgiving, thus giving our teaching staff and our administrators a chance to make any classroom adjustments if need be, prior to the start of try 2. If we are remaining in our distance learning, it also then for December lines up where each of those sections have 6 teaching periods. So it balances it back out for them. And then we looked at, in March, originally the calendar had the end of the try, I believe, being March 11th. So we moved that up 1 week, again, balancing out so that there's a Friday, Monday off. And then that way the tries end up being 53, 56, and 60. Knowing that in the spring we have assessments. We don't, I guess this year we won't know for sure if we're gonna do assessments again or not. But we also have like spring sports and other things that tend to pull away from some of our students or activities that are going on. So we felt like that could be a better balance. That then also creates a few days off here and there. It does, May gets to be really long, but that's kind of
Okay, the end is exciting, May though.
yeah, yep. So after working with the staff, that's the recommendations that came from them. We also moved the original, I think on the original one, there was an October 26th day. And so we paired those together again to have that balance for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday educational opportunities. So.
Okay. All right. We have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Sue, seconded by Howard. Is there any discussion? All right.
Well, I
Sorry,
did
Howard.
have a question, and we talked about it before you got here, Jason. But we've changed the calendar where we've had days off, and contact days, and some contact days are gonna be off. And if any staff have made plans that far ahead for anything, those conflicts will be addressed individually.
Yeah, we'll work with them individually on that. That's why we wanted to try and do it as quickly as possible so that if there is somebody that planned a cruise, I'm sure that they're gonna get to go on that.
Well, yeah.
And that could potentially take that opportunity. But and then we did have a couple of staff development days we had one in January that we used. Those 8 hours now are transferred to August for planning type purposes. So all staff and students will actually be off on MLK Day on January 18th, which on our original calendar was a staff development day. So, yep. So we're trying to find some balance, helping staff out, giving them a natural break as well, because I'm sure they're going to need it. And hopefully we have a great year.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, we'll vote starting with Eric Stramberg. Yes? Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Howard?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Sue?
Yeah.
All right, it is approved. We're gonna vote on this face covering policy that we just went over. We have a motion to accept the COVID-19 face covering policy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Howard, seconded by Jim. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, can you modify your motion to say with the recommended version from the policy?
Yeah, I moved that we accept the policy with additional wording that we added.
All right, Howard's motion is to make the amendment of the additional wording that was added for the policy. Jim, are you seconding that?
I will.
All right, motion by Howard, seconded by Jim. Is there any discussion?
Are people moving closer to accepting that
Uh,
kids will do this or no?
I know from an HR perspective, the masking policy itself is going into place in majority of the districts. There are 3 or 4 that are saying, no, we're just gonna stick with the executive order. Executive order.
Yeah, I think that the majority of people have accepted that this is it, but we will have issues.
Does this include 5-year-olds up? I can't remember.
There are some provisions with 5-year-olds. I think there's some differences if you're 5 and you're in kindergarten, and if you're 5 and you're not in kindergarten, there's some differences there. If you are in kindergarten, I believe that they are required to wear the mask. If they are 5 and maybe in Tiger Club or some daycare setting, they would not be.
Okay.
So there's some fine language related to that topic, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
So the part that bothers me the most about the policy is the energy and the time that school staff are going to be spending enforcing.
Yeah.
That's the part that I have the issue with, because
Deb cut out there. I didn't hear everything she said.
She just indicated that, I think she's having some empathy for our staff and that they are going to have to spend quite a bit of their time enforcing this policy that might distract them from teaching.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if I summarized.
yeah, I mean, not only teachers, but
Yeah.
Now, I think I recall that if a student refuses to wear a mask, he or she will just be sent home for distance learning.
Yeah, I had that in our the Tiger Times last week.
Yeah.
I want to just be real clear because there still is some small thought that the district wasn't going to enforce this, which I don't know how people thought that way, but that was something I just wanted to have a clear-cut statement, and I felt like that was about as clear as I could be. It was pretty blunt that we will strictly be enforcing this. And this is one of those things that we believe that, this isn't like something that we would use a progressive disciplinary model on, like, okay, the first time you get lunch detention and the next time you get, recess detention, then it's like, hey, it's either you're going to do it or you're not. If you're not going to do it, we're transitioning you into distance learning.
I equate it with the dress code. You can't wear that shirt, same thing.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll vote, starting with Deb.
no,
Jim?
Yes.
Howard?
Yeah,
Chad?
Yes.
Sue?
Yeah.
Eric Stramberg? Yes. All right. Carries. Middle school handbook. This is one handbook we didn't approve last time, I believe, right?
mm-hmm.
So do we have a motion to accept the middle school 2020-2021 student handbook?
So moved.
Motion made by Howard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Sue. Is there any discussion?
I just want to point out that our admin has made this point to me a little bit, is that I think they have a clause in there that some of this might be subject to change based upon COVID, unexpected things that might occur. Like they do have dates of certain events and those kinds of things, and those all could potentially change.
Well, kudos to the new principal.
Yeah. And you know what? We will get Charlie here to meet you soon. I just honestly, I'd love to have the principals here talking to you, but I need to have their eye on the ball. They need to be focused on the other piece, and I don't need to give them extra work to come prepare for a presentation.
Yep, understood. All right. Is there any more discussion or any more questions? All right, we'll vote starting with Jim,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Deb?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the resolution calling for the school district general election. Do we have a motion to accept the resolution calling for the school board general election as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Deb, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jim, is there any discussion? All right, we'll vote starting with Howard,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Sue,
Yeah.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Deb,
Yes.
Jim.
Yeah.
All right, motion's approved. There are no additions to the agenda. Future meetings. There's none listed, but we all know when we meet. Do we have a motion to close the school board meeting to discuss negotiation strategies?
So,
Motion made by Howard, seconded by Sue. Is there any discussion? All right, we'll vote starting with Chad.
Yes.
Sue,
Yeah.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yep. Yes.
Howard.
yes.
All right, meeting is closed.